Hi there, this is Unmesh from PiXimperfect, and what if I tell you that everything that you're watching right now, all of the changes, all of the sky replacements are absolutely automatic. Of course, you need to move a few sliders, but it's automatic, including color matching. So last year when I was speaking at Adobe Max, where I made a complete joker out of myself, so don't watch that video. These two gentlemen dragged me into checking out this software, and one feature, just this one feature, absolutely attracted to me like a child going for an ice cream, which I still do. So all we have to do is to select the sky we want, move a few sliders if required, and within 30 seconds, you have a perfect sky replacement in most cases. Today we're going to be testing this software with all kinds of images, with challenging skies, simple skies, skies with trees, skies with skyscrapers, towers, and all of that stuff, and see how Photoshop holds up in competition to it. So without any further ado, let's get started. Back in the brilliant world of Photoshop and Luminar, of course, and I have something for you guys. All of the images that are going to be used in this tutorial will be available for you to download, and not just that, you will be able to download the final finished PSD of each and every image with sky replacements done so that you can see the settings, check out the adjustments for yourself. Isn't that amazing? So check the link in the description to download them. Keep in mind, Luminar can both be used as a standalone version and also as a plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom. For our convenience, we're going to use it as a Photoshop plugin. So let's start with a simple image which does not require advanced sky masking and selections. Let's take a look at this. This is a beautiful lighthouse image, but we want something dramatic. And the easiest way to make something dramatic, a scene like this, especially sunset scene like this, is to just replace the sky. So first of all, with the background layer selected, press Ctrl or Command J, because we always want to have a backup, right? And we can just name this Replaced Sky. Now, what do we do before applying any filter in Photoshop? Change that into a smart object so that we can change the values later. And that's one advantage of Luminar, is that it works with smart objects and you can go back and change stuff sliders later, and even skies. So let's go to Filter and then Convert for Smart Filters. Hit OK. This converts that into a smart object. The next thing we need to do is to go to Filter. After you have installed the plugin, you can go to Skylum Software, Luminar 4. Just click on that and it'll open that up. Once in Luminar, you have 4 tabs right there: Essential, Creative, Portrait, and Professional. So let's go to Creative because we want to do something creative and change the sky. AI Sky Replacement. There are a lot of skies already in Luminar. You can use your own skies as well. But let's start with something default right there. I want something dramatic. So let's go with Dramatic Sky 2. And let's take a look at this, how it does. Have a look. I didn't even have to move a slider and already it looks so amazing. Let's take a look. Here's the before, here's the after. But if we have a look at the scene, the sun is on the right hand side. The sun should be somewhere around there because the light is falling right here. So we need to choose the sky accordingly. So let's go with Dramatic Sky 3. This isn't matching. So we need to choose something like Sunset because this is a sunset scene. Sunset 3. How do you feel about that? This is amazing, isn't it? But here's the problem. In the sky, the light is coming from the left hand side, but in reality, the light is coming from the right hand side. How do we flip that? Simple. Go to Advanced Settings right there, click on that, and simply click on Flip Sky. That's all you gotta do, and it flips it. It automatically looks amazing. Let's take a look at the before and after. So this is the before without sky replacement, and this is the after. Have a look at the foreground as well. The foreground color changes too. There is color matching going on. But if you want to relight and color match even more, you can use this slider, Relight Scene. Just simply increase it and have a look. It matches it according to the sky. What I loved about this is that number 1, it works with smart object, and you know how much I love non-destructive workflow. And number 2, you don't have to go around finding skies on the internet or downloading them. Already has a lot of skies to choose from, right? So 2 advantages right there. Now, if you want, you can also download some additional skies from Skylum as well. So they have some packs. So if you click on download new sky images, it's going to take it to their marketplace. I already have some downloaded. So all I have to do is to click on in here, go down, and I think I have something. Load custom sky image. So these are the sky packs that you can get from Skylum. So let's go for red skies, and orange Alto 2 looks nice right over here. Click on open. And take a look. Already it's looking amazing. So here's the before. Here's the after. So easy to replace the skies. So let me ask you again, do you think this is better than Photoshop? Well, if you ask me personally, it doesn't have to compete with Photoshop. It can work with Photoshop because now when I look at it, I can create some additional highlights, some manual highlights right here with Photoshop. So all we have to do, let's increase Relight Scene. Wow, the matching is amazing, but we need some highlights here. Click on Apply. And if you are more comfortable using curves like me, you can simply proceed with Photoshop. Now, if you have a look, it has already gotten us to a great starting point. It might be an end point for most cases, but I want some highlights right here because there's sun right there. and these are darker than I think they should have been. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves, and we're gonna just brighten this stuff up. And let's add some yellows by going to the blue channel and decreasing the blues because blue is the opposite of yellow. Let's add some magentas by going to the green channel and decreasing the green because green is the opposite of magenta. And it looks pretty nice. So double click on the right hand side of the layer. We only want to limit it to the bright areas. Take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. This looks nice. Now we want to make the transition smoother. Hold the Alt key or the Option key. Click on the slider to break it apart. Yeah, that counts for a great transition. Hit OK. Now click on the mask right there, press Ctrl or Command I. Now you can take the brush with white as the foreground color, just paint on areas where you want to add the highlights. Look how nice it looks right now, the sun shining from there. So it doesn't have to compete with Photoshop. It can work with Photoshop and make it just more awesome and easy to work with. Take a look. How easy was that? Here's the before, here's the after. Let's take a complete look at the before and after. Here's the before, here's the after. On top of that, you can add some LUTs to make it even more dramatic, but we'll get to that later. Did you notice something with the previous example? If you look closely, the AI involved automatically detects the horizon. Let's take a look at this example. Make a copy, Ctrl or Command J, don't forget it, and then go to Filter and then Convert for Smart Filters, hit OK to convert that into a smart object, then go to Filter, Skylum Software, Luminar 4. Now you must be thinking, those are skies from Skylum. What if we use our own skies? Will it still work? Let's take a look. So I downloaded a random sky from the internet and let's see if it works in this case. So let's go to Creative, AI Sky Replacement, Sky Selection, and let's go ahead and choose Load Custom Sky Image. And I have the stock photo of this sky right there. This is not from Skylum. This is something which I independently got. And click on Open. And take a look at this. This is our own independent sky. And if we just simply increase the relight scene, it begins to match even more, isn't it? Now take a look. It automatically detected the horizon of the image and placed the sky accordingly. Now let's test it. Let's apply this first. Let's take the same image but with a lower horizon. Let's see how it places the clouds then. So this is the image that we just worked on. Let's open the same image with a lower horizon right there. And let's see how this one responds to it. AI Sky Replacement. Let's choose the same sky. It's always going to load the last one. Golden hour clouds. And take a look. And if we hit apply, let's increase relight scene from right here. If we hit apply, you will see the difference. Take a look. This is with a higher horizon and this one is with a lower horizon. And if you look closely, with the horizon, the sky moved too. Luminar just doesn't slap on the sky. It detects the horizon. That's what I really love about this. Now let's do some more adjustment to it. What did we just learn? It works with smart objects, right? So if we open this arrow up, click on this and double click on Luminar, it will open up with those exact same settings that we can change anytime. So in the Essentials tab, click on Light. Let's decrease the exposure a little bit. Make it a little darker. Nice, isn't it? Add a little brightness in the shadows. And then we can use something exciting, Landscape Enhancer. What does that do? Enhances landscapes, right? So simply increase the golden hour a little bit right over here and take a look at it. For me, it looks pretty good. You can also try some LUTs on it. So if you go to Creative right there, there are some lookup tables and you can try a ton of them right there. Let's go for smoky. A little warm. I love it. Let's increase the contrast in here and there you go. Hit apply. So finally, nothing much, just a little more grunge and a little more contrast. Now you can take your time to play with all the sliders, try out every special effect. There are lots of exciting things in it. This video is just about sky replacement, so let's move on to the next example. Now let's step up the game a little bit and let's see how Luminar handles trees. Now this is a very challenging image, not just because there are complex trees to select, but also because there is mist in there, which is absolutely difficult, extremely hard for Photoshop to select and replace skies with. So let's try it with Luminar and then we'll also try it with Photoshop. So let's go to Creative. Now inside of Creative, AI Sky Replacement, let's use one of these skies right there. Dramatic Sky 3, it looks nice. Now it does a pretty good job at the first sight, but if you zoom in closely, there are some areas that it didn't get quite nicely, right? Take a look at this. It just didn't get the trees so right. Now in this case, you can use something like Sky Global that's going to decide how much of it is sky. The higher the slider goes, the more the sky will penetrate. All right. So if we increase it, you see, the sky just gets in more, but we're going to leave it at normal value, which is 30. All right. Let's go to advanced settings. There's a lot of gaps right there. The sky penetration is fine. The sky gets in pretty nicely, but these gaps are not filled properly. So we need to close the gaps. So simply increase close gaps. That's all you got to do and take a look. it is fixed so nicely. It is amazing, isn't it? Now, there are some areas, I agree, that there are areas like this that are not perfect. I tried a lot of sliders, but those areas are just impossible to get. But there's a fix for that, I'm going to tell you later. But right now, if you zoom out, and even if you zoom in 100%, you cannot tell. You can't tell that small area is not selected properly because it got most of it. But don't worry, there's a fix for it. We're going to talk about it later. Keep in mind, this is an impossible image. I'm going to show that to you in Photoshop. Okay, so let's relight the scene completely. Decrease the sky exposure to make it even more dramatic. Let's go to the Essentials tab. Now inside of that, there's this thing called AI Enhance. Let's try AI Accent. Look, it just creates a very nice effect, but we don't need so much of it. Just a little bit of it is fine. Now we can go back to creative and there's this thing called the matte look. Let's try that. Let's increase the amount a little bit. We can also fade it if we want to, just increase the contrast. It creates a very nice look. We can also try some lookup tables. Let's go to LUT and then we can choose something like sepia. That's nice. And increase the contrast in there. Pretty dramatic already, isn't it? So let's stop here and click on apply. Now back in Photoshop with the adjustments done, let's name this one Luminar. Because this was done with Luminar. Let's try to do it with Photoshop, alright? Let's make a copy, place it at the very top. Now how are we going to select the sky? We can use color range in this case. We can also select the highlights. So first of all, let's go to filter, convert for smart filters, hit OK so that this is a smart object. Then select and then color range. Now decrease the fuzziness all the way to the left hand side, about 9 is okay. With the first eyedropper, pick on the sky. You can choose a selection preview like black matte and let's add more of the sky with the plus eyedropper. Just start painting. And now you can increase the fuzziness. As you can see, more and more of the sky is selected. Now we want the sky to be selected, but it's selecting the opposite areas because invert is checked. So uncheck that. And this pretty much looks okay. Hit OK. We can mask out the road later. That's not much of a concern. Now click on the mask button right there. Now let's turn the Luminar off for a moment. Now under it, we need to place our new sky. So here we are in our Finder or Explorer and I have a couple of skies from the Sky Pack Burst of Drama. Let's drag and drop in just a random sky right here. And let's make it larger. Take it to the top. All right, looks pretty good. Now bring it under the sky selection. Now let's name this Done with Photoshop. Or just Photoshop selection. Now it's the opposite of mask. So let's invert the mask. So select the mask and press Ctrl or Command I. And now have a look at this sky and the selection. It just doesn't look right. I told you it would be impossible. The mask looks perfectly fine. If you take a look at the mask, it looks perfectly all right. Everything looks fine. But if you look at the reality, it just isn't suiting right. You know why? Because the original sky was brighter and the trees took up that color and now it just doesn't suit very well. Now fixing this is extremely difficult. You can go ahead and choose the multiply blend mode from there and it makes everything darker and then you need to erase some areas. It's just absolutely impossible to do that. However, if you look at the Luminar's result, it considered the color of the sky, it matched it accordingly and did something which is absolutely brilliant. I have to say that. Now keep in mind, Luminar was way quicker. Now we need to go here and change the blend mode to multiply, mask in a couple areas, then blur it later. It's a whole long process and you can check out this video on how to do that. Now when we replaced the sky with Luminar, there was a very minor issue which most people won't be able to notice. But now when I notice it, I think I need to fix it. And what did we learn? Photoshop doesn't have to be the competitor. Luminar can work with Photoshop. So we can fix this area. As you can see, it's not selected properly. It's very simple. All you gotta do is to delete all that mess already. Let's turn off Luminar for a moment and let's select this area, just the sky. And you can use color range to do that, right? So let's go to select and then color range. And we're gonna choose this area, decrease the fuzziness, and we can add the surrounding areas. This looks pretty all right. Hit OK. Now the skies are selected. Now let's turn on Luminar and on top of it, create one more layer. Zoom in a little bit, select the clone stamp tool from right there. And now when we clone it, it won't get inside the trees. So you can zoom in, hold the Alt key or the Option key, click to take a sample and fill in inside. Making sense? See how it's getting fixed? You can hide the selection momentarily by pressing Ctrl or Command H and fix it already. See? So easily we fixed it. In my opinion, Luminar will give you a great starting point, even an end point. And if there's a need, you can easily fix any errors with Photoshop. Because replacing the skies with Photoshop, in my opinion, will require way more time and effort in trying to not only get the mask right, but also the color matching, which was extremely challenging as you saw in this case. Now selecting trees with skies full of mist is on a whole new level that we just did. However, if you have something like this, and even this is very complicated, right? If this is not complicated, I don't know what is. There's already some clouds in there, and just take a look at the complexity of the trees. And you can easily replace the skies in this case because there is no mist. So let's go to Creative, AI Sky Replacement, and you can use any of the skies and it works perfectly. It should work perfectly. It better work perfectly. Take a look at this. Bright blue sky 1, 2, 3. Now we need to understand one thing. Take a look at this example. This is a daylight image. So we need to place skies appropriately. Let's say you have a sunny landscape with hard sunlight. We cannot place an overcast, cloudy sky at the top. It just won't work, right? Whatever software you use, even if you do it manually with Photoshop or this software or any other software, it just won't look right. So in this case, let's go with bright blue sky 3. Looks pretty good. And before you apply, just zoom in and see if any areas are left out. All of these areas are pretty good. There are some areas which are left out if you zoom in. Take a look, this area is left out and it's easy to ignore. But anyway, if you want to fill it, you can always try increasing Sky Global and it's filled and fixed. There you go, perfect sky replacement. Next up, we have the beautiful Eiffel Tower. If you zoom in, see how complicated it is? We need to find a way to fill in those gaps. And also, look at the horizon. There's a little bit of mist in right there because it goes grayish when it goes towards the horizon. So we need to make sure that it abruptly doesn't replace the sky. So there's a feature called horizon blending in Luminar. Let's check that out. So Control or Command J, go to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, hit OK. And let's name this Luminar because we're going to compare it with Photoshop. Go to Filter, Skylum Software, Luminar 4. So let's try some new skies, not the default ones. So let's go to Creative, AI Sky Replacement, and we're going to choose our own sky, load custom sky. And one of my favorite packs from Skylum is California sunsets because it's not very dramatic, but it's very versatile. It can be used in a lot of places. Let's try Long Beach sunset. Have you ever been to Long Beach? I haven't yet. All right, this is nice. But if you have a look, if I turn it off, light is coming from the left hand side, right? So we need to flip it. So click on Advanced Settings. Let's flip the sky. Now, one thing I warned about before, if you zoom in closely, you will take a look that the sky is abruptly being replaced. And we can actually fix it by moving the Sky Global and Close Gap sliders. But we want a very soft transition. How do we get that? Now, it has automatically detected the horizon. However, you can move the horizon position up or down. So you can move the horizon up. So let's zoom out. And you can move it down. But it does detect it automatically. Double click on it to reset it. Now to add blending, all you have to do is to just increase horizon blending. It will add a soft transition. It still relights everything. I want it to the full. And let's take the horizon up just a little bit. Now this looks a little more realistic. That it goes into the mist, there's a lot in there, but it's not visible, and the sky starts. Beautiful. And take a look at the tower. It got all the gaps. It didn't leave out anything. Do you think it left out something? There are some areas that I felt it left out, like this area right over there. No problem. Increase Sky Global. And it will fill in all of those areas. Filled in pretty nicely. You can also try Close Gaps and see how it works. It also fills in a lot more areas which were inside it. Now we can do some adjustments here and there as well. So let's increase the sky temperature. Temperature is simply making it warmer or cooler. So if you take it to the left, it's going to make it cooler. And if you take it to the right, it's going to make it warmer. So let's make it a little warm. If you want, you can also relight the scene. I usually like to try it all the way to the max, and it does a brilliant job of it. Let's try some landscape enhancer on this one. Landscape enhancer, dehaze. A little bit higher dehaze. This looks pretty nice. And golden hour. Wow. Okay. Now there's a problem with this golden hour. You see, this area is getting very oversaturated. So what would we do if we wanted to fix it in Photoshop? Create a mask, right? And we can create a luminosity mask in this one and only remove it from the bright areas. Yes, we can do that. So let's click on Edit Mask for that filter. Filters have masks of their own. Click on that and luminosity mask. It automatically will create a luminosity mask. But if you look closely, this is just the opposite of what we wanted. It keeps it in the bright area, so we need to invert the mask. So right now, you can go back to the mask. You can choose a brush and the mask will be there. This is the mask mode, I think. Click on the eye. So this is actually the mask. Now what you can do is invert the mask. Click on the drop down and choose invert. The mask is now inverted. If you want to see the result, just click on the eye. Now have a look. It's dimmer. Click on done. And it's done. Now this is way better. I can control the golden hour and it won't affect that area. This value looks pretty nice. What if we also apply a LUT to it? So let's go to creative and we should have LUTs right there. Let's scroll down. Color styles, LUTs. And the great part about it is that as you hover through them, it's going to give you the preview. Let's go for Geneva. Looks nice. Amount is too much. Let's keep it at about 17 or 18. And we need some punch for it. So increase the contrast. Pretty good. So here's the before. Here's the after. Does make a significant difference. Click on apply. There you go. Just look at the result. Looks pretty amazing, isn't it? Now if you zoom in, let's see if there are some problems here and there. No, it looks pretty nice to me. And if there were problems, you can always click on this arrow, open that up, open Luminar 4, and then just move the sliders here and there to kind of fix it. Looks pretty good to me. There you go. Now let's try this with Photoshop. Let's turn off the Luminar. We don't need it. Make a copy of the background and place it at the top. And we're going to select the sky. We can use color range for it. So let's go to select and then color range. We can also use select and mask, your choice. And let's add more and more of the sky area. Looks like a pretty decent selection. Hit OK once you're satisfied. Now click on the mask button. Now let's bring in the sky. We're going to use the same sky right here, which was Long Beach. Let's bring it in. And we need to invert it. Right click on it. Flip horizontal. Flip it. And place it right here accordingly. And then place it under the tower. We want just the opposite of it. So select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. And again, we came across the same problem. It just does not look right because there was a bright background at the back of that already and it takes up that color a little bit. And once you place in a darker sky, it begins to look strange. Take a look. It just doesn't look right. Now, there are certain things which we can do to fix it. We can change the blend mode to multiply. All right. So the multiply looks nice, but there are some details of the clouds in there. So you can make a copy of the Long Beach and we have talked about it in previous videos. And then blur it out. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and blur it a lot. And just keep those areas of the mask. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag the mask to the Long Beach sunset area. Now the details are proper, but still things don't look right to me. So all we have to do is to make one more copy of the original and place it at the very top. Hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the mask button. It creates a negative mask. Take a brush, a soft round brush with white as the foreground color. Just paint back in the original areas at the bottom. So this is one thing we can do. And then we have to use curves to kind of match it. So this is done with Photoshop. You have to take a lot more time to kind of do it. And then after that, you need to create a curves adjustment layer and just apply it to that one, make it a little darker. And then go to greens and decrease the greens to bring in a little magenta. Go to blues and decrease the blues to make it a little more yellow and kind of try to match it to that of the original. So this looks pretty okay. So this is done with Photoshop and we can actually create a stamp visible layer at the very top. This is done with Photoshop and let's bring the Luminar to the top as well. And this one is Luminar. Just look at how it matches the colors. It's so beautiful. And it didn't take so much effort and time. You can of course spend more time with the Photoshop's version and make it even better. But the great part about it is that Luminar already gives you the package and then you can start from there and build upon it with Photoshop. Let me show you one more amazing example where I did the same thing with Photoshop and Luminar. So this is a picture of a castle with a boring sky. Now keep in mind, we only replace skies when the sky is boring. If the sky is already interesting, enhance it. So let's see the Photoshop version. So this is the Photoshop version. And if we open up the group, you can see very clearly that we have masked in pretty nicely. We have the sky in there. And then with curves, we have just made it a little darker and tried to color match it. And this one is with Luminar. Just a hell lot of difference. I think I should have flipped the sky, but take a look at the color matching. It's just out of this world. If you have a closer look around the corner, see, that's what Photoshop might struggle with. And we might have to find ways like blend modes to fix it. When you have a brighter sky and then when you try to replace it with a darker sky, things kind of mess up. So this is the Photoshop version and just take a look at the Luminar version. Look how many details are there, right? It's Photoshop, Luminar, and Luminar is even faster. I didn't want to believe it, but you can try the image for yourself and check it for yourself. What else can I say? If you're interested in Luminar, stay till the end of the video. I have some great offers for you. Now, since we are talking about automatic masking and sky replacement and color matching, how can we leave out portraits, because portraits might require sky drama too as well, right? We need to find out how it deals with human hair as well. Also, sometimes when we are capturing portrait, we have a shallow depth of field. The sky might be a little blurred. How can we achieve that? Let's take a look at how to do that in Luminar. So we already opened the photo in Luminar and take a look at the subject. By the way, she's beautiful, isn't she? There is a shallow depth of field, right? And if you replace the sky, it's not gonna look right. All right, let's try to do that. Let's go to Creative and AI Sky Replacement. Let's try something new. Let's go down and we're gonna go to Load Custom Sky Image. And I have one more interesting pack that I like, and that is Caribbean Skies by Matthew Brown. Brown, is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, I'm so sorry, Matthew. So let's select this one, Colorful Sunrise. Let's open that up. Keep in mind the light is coming from the left hand side, and even in the sky the light is coming from the left hand side, so we are all set. Now there is something that just isn't looking right. The sky is sharp, but there is shallow depth of field and the background is supposed to be a little blurry. But before we go ahead and fix that, let's fix the horizon. So first of all, we need to blend the horizon a little bit. So let's blend it a little much. Something like this. Now bring the horizon a little down to match it. A little up. Something like this seems nice to me. Now all you gotta do is to go to Advanced Settings, and in here just use Sky Defocus. And it is made for those situations where you have a shallow depth of field and the sky needs to be blurred a little bit. So simply increase it and the sky will be blurred. Now it's looking okay. Now for blurry skies, try to choose a sky which is colorful so that the drama of the sky is not very dependent on the details, but the color. Alright, now let's zoom in and take a look at how it handles the hair. So zoom in, and it did leave out a lot of areas if you take a look right here. So what do we need to do? Simply close the gaps. So in the advanced settings, simply increase close gaps, and it fixes that. And if we move right here, there are some more areas that need to be filled. So let's take in the sky, let it penetrate. So let's increase the sky global. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it just got in pretty nicely. Let's increase it even more. Yeah, all of that is filled. Now let's increase close gaps even more and take a look at the hair. It's so well done, isn't it? So hard to do. All right, let's zoom out, and there you have a perfect sky replacement. One more thing. We need to match our subject with that of the sky. It's already matching, but let's try even more. Relighting. Look at it. It's even better. Let's not set it so high. Let's keep it somewhere about this number. Let's go to light and just decrease the exposure a little bit to match it even more and bring out the details in the shadows. There you have it. Let's take a look at the before and after. And by the way, this is the way to do it. If you click and hold on the eye, this is the before and this is the after. You can also click on this button, so it'll show you split before, after, and you can change accordingly. Now, there's also an option to add some film grain to it. So if you go to creative, right here at the bottom, there would be this film grain. You can increase it just a little bit to add some more texture to your photos. Just a little bit of it looks so good. If you zoom in, you'll be able to see it more clearly. And you can always go to the advanced settings right here and play with the size and the roughness and work even more with it. However, I like to add grain later in Photoshop because then we have the flexibility to add a lot of things in between in Photoshop. All right. So once you're satisfied, I'm just going to turn this off and click on apply. Keep in mind, if we were replacing the sky with Photoshop, matching the hair would be a nightmare, as we already saw in previous examples. Now for the last example, we have the most challenging project for Photoshop and Luminar to go head to head, or maybe together. Let's take a look at this photo. We have this translucent veil and we have to replace the sky. All right, this is a challenge. Now let's try to first do it with Photoshop right now. This should be easy with Photoshop with color range because it can select little bits of the veil, right? So first of all, make a copy by pressing Ctrl or Command J. We have a copy. Let's name this subject. Okay. Let's go to select and then color range. We're going to choose the sky. With the first eyedropper, just pick the sky and then you can plus, using the plus eyedropper, you can select all of the sky. A little more probably, and then increase the fuzziness. Yeah, this is a pretty good selection. So we're going to go ahead and increase the fuzziness until we see a good, nice selection. This looks to be pretty okay. You can also look at a grayscale preview. Selection preview, you can choose grayscale. White are the areas which are selected. Black are the areas which are not selected. So this seems to be about right. Once you're satisfied with the selection, you can always modify that later, by the way. Hit OK. All right. Now keep in mind, skies are selected. We want the opposite of that. Press Ctrl Shift I, Command Shift I to invert the selection and click on the mask button. Alright, now we can place the sky under it. So here is a stock sky that we can use. Let's drop it right there. Let's arrange it. Position looks nice. Now, place the sky under the subject and take a look. It's pretty good, but then again, the veil isn't very right. What if we make a couple copies of the subject? It just isn't looking okay. I don't really like it. Let's try Luminar with it. Okay, Luminar might also not get it right. Don't get your hopes up. Let's make one more copy of the background. Okay, now we're gonna go to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, hit OK. We shouldn't forget it. Filter, Skylum Software, Luminar. In the Creative tab, AI Sky Replacement, let's go for one of the defaults. So Bright Blue Sky 3. It looks pretty nice to me. And what do you think about it? I don't know about selecting the veils, but the color matching is on point. Just look at the hair. The hair is so perfect right here. See that? All right. Now we can just increase the relight scene to relight the scene a little bit. And let's take a look. Here's the before, here's the after. But if you look at the veil, it didn't do a very good job selecting the veil. If you look closely, there are some areas it left out, but if you zoom out, most people cannot tell. But as Photoshop users, we won't be satisfied. We know that. So let's try to increase Sky Global. It will take more of the veil, but it's still not looking very realistic. Now there's one slider. If you open the advanced, there's this called Sky Local. It's used to cover clouds. Let's say the sky that you're replacing already has a cloud in it and it's not covered properly. You can increase the Sky Local to cover it even more. In this case, you can say the veil is just like a cloud, so you can increase the Sky Local to cover more areas, but it's still not looking pretty nice. Let's leave it at that and apply it. The rest of the areas are looking fantastic. What we can do now is combine the power of Photoshop. Now we have this result, but we already have a subject layer with the sky masked out and the veil selected with color range, right? What if we place it over it? It's gonna make it a little more natural, but we only want to keep the veil area. We'll take care of that later. But the veil is looking a little more natural. Let's take a look. Here's the before, here's the after, right? What if we also make a copy of the original one, all right, place it at the very top, and then select just the veil. With the quick selection tool right there, let's select just the veil. And we don't have to select all of it, just a little bit of it is fine. And now, when we click on the mask button, just that area stays, and then we simply decrease the opacity. Slowly and gradually increase it to the point where it looks realistic. This one looks fine. Now what we can do, we can make a group of both of these. Select the first one, hold the controller command, select the second one, controller command G, and then hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the mask button. This creates a negative mask. We only wanted to cover the veil area. So take the brush with white as the foreground color, with a soft round brush, flow at 100, just paint over the veil. Fixed. And the color is matching too. Let's take a look. So with the power of Luminar and Photoshop, we have an excellent result. So do you think the software is worth it? To me personally, the AI technology involved in this is brilliant. You see how not only did it replace the sky with automatic masking, but also the color matching was absolutely on point. Something extremely difficult to perform with Photoshop, especially when you want a darker sky on a brighter landscape. The edges go crazy. Managing that was, for me at least, a wow factor. Does it say that it's better than Photoshop? Well, Photoshop is a different beast. It gives you the power to do anything you can imagine, but it's more manually inclined. There isn't much as AI or color matching or horizon detection and all of that technology is involved to make it easier. However, combining Luminar with Photoshop gives us the best of both worlds. If you're interested in checking out Luminar, I have an amazing limited time offer for you. In fact, we have 3. Luminar already comes with a set of good skies to start with, but I would recommend getting some amazing sky packs with it, like the ones we used in this tutorial. So with my friends at Skylum, we have made a bundle for you where you can get Luminar 4 plus the Power of Nature Sky Pack and the California Sunset Sky Pack as well, all for just $89. If you buy them separately, it'll cost you $143. If you want just Luminar, that's awesome too. You can get it for just $64 instead of $89 by simply clicking the link in the description. Then if you choose to buy additional skies, you can also use the code PIXSKY10. That saves you $10 or €10 when purchasing these sky packs. All of the links are in the description. All in all, I can definitely say that for sky replacements at least, Luminar 4 is the king. After all, it's made by Skylum. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I could show you something new. If this video gave you some ideas, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you don't miss any other feature tips, tricks or tutorials. Thank you so much for watching again. I'll see you in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.